Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome into our lecture number 32, which is the last lecture. And let's have a look into our previous lecture, what we studied. It is chapter number 5, and in our previous lecture we discussed the first part of our chapter number 5, and we covered the following topics in that lecture. That is the relationship or trade-off between risk and return. When we say trade-off, इट मीन्स कि हम कितना रिस्क एज्यूम करते हैं जिसके अगेंस्ट रिटर्न एक्सपेक्ट किया जाता है। और किसी भी बिजनेस में जनरल फार्मूला कह लें या इसको गोल्डन सेइंग कह लें कि द हायर द रिस्क द हायर द रिटर्न। जितना ज़्यादा आप रिस्क अवेल करेंगे उतना ही ज़्यादा रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेड है। एंड देन व्हाट इज़ रिस्क एंड रिटर्न एंड हाउ टू मेजर देम बाय कैलकुलेटिंग एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न, स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन एंड कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन। हम रिस्क को कैसे मेजर करते हैं, उसके लिए हम एक्सपेक्टेड वैल्यूज उसकी फाइंड आउट करते हैं। इफ़ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट रिटर्न, देन वी डिटरमिन द एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न एंड देन स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन फॉर दैट एंड कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन फॉर दैट। और स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन और कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन जितना लो होंगे या आपके पास जो अवेलेबल प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं उनमें जिनका स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन और कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन मिनिमम होगा with a maximum net present value, that projects or those investments should be accepted. And also we covered different types of investor attitudes towards risk, that is risk averse, risk indifferent and high risk taker. Every individual has its own attitude towards the risk. Some people they need high return and they can take higher risk, and sometimes people they don't want to take high risk and they are satisfied with the minimum level of risk. And there is a class in between, that is we called risk indifferent. So whatever risk they assume they want to have are relevant. So between these two we have the people we call them moderate risk taker. So they don't go towards both of the extreme, they remain in the middle. And then risk and return in a portfolio context, and difference between individual security risk and portfolio risk. And also one of the tools to diversify the risk and to lower the risk is that to invest into different assets or different stocks such that they are not correlated with each other, और उनका आपस में कोरिलेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर उनका आपस में कोरिलेशन है, that is they have high correlation among each other, it means कि अगर एक स्टॉक ज़्यादा अर्न कर रहा है then the second stock will also be earning more, और अगर एक स्टॉक जो है वो लेस अर्न कर रहा है या is going negative earning or losing its value, the other stock would also be losing its value. So in that case अगर उनका आपस में कोरिलेशन नहीं है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर एक स्टॉक ज़्यादा अर्न कर रहा है दूसरा कम अर्न कर रहा है, and then the other stock, the first stock if it is earning less, the second stock would be earning more. So in that case your risk profile है that will be minimum. And then we studied avoidable or unsystematic risk and unavoidable or systematic risk, and the role of diversification in eliminating one of these risks. इसमें जो systematic risk है that is unavoidable because this is not in the control of the firm or the investor, but the other risk which is unsystematic risk which is out of the company's own operations, that can be avoidable and that can be manageable. And we studied the variance and covariance matrix in our previous lecture, that is when we have more than one as an investment into different stocks or into different securities, and we have weightage of all these stocks into the total investment. So we then determine their variance and covariance matrix. हम इसको variance and covariance matrix क्यों कहते हैं and why do we use it? In fact, when we are going to determine the standard deviation and the coefficient of variation, we use the variance and covariance matrix for the different stocks having different weightage into the total investment. तो उसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि हम इसको variance इसलिए कहते हैं कि when you take the weightage of one stock and multiply it with the weightage of the same stock and take the variance or covariance of that stock with itself, that is you can see here the covariance of stock 1 with stock 1, it becomes like that. So it is a variance. So in all these cases, so all the diagonal figures here you can see they are variances, and all other figures or all other combinations that they are the covariance between stock 1 and 2 and then 1 and 3, and then the figures they repeat each other. Like you can see here, this and this is same, and then this and this is same, and again this and this is same. So in any variance covariance matrix, जो diagonal में होंगे they will be the variances, and any other and all other combinations they will be covariances. So that's why we call them variance covariance matrix. And also in our last lecture we discussed that total risk is equal to systematic risk plus unsystematic risk, and that systematic risk is the variability of return on stocks or portfolio associated with the changes in return on the market as a whole. So here the point is that is on the market as a whole, that no one stock or no one investor or firm can control the situation here. And in case of unsystematic risk, it's the variability of return on stock or portfolios not explained by general market movement. Unsystematic risk refers to the risk inherent in each company that you invest. It is avoidable through diversification. आप जिस कंपनी में के स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, उन कंपनीज की परफॉर्मेंस या उनकी एफिशिएंसी या उनके साथ बिकॉज ऑफ एनी अनवांटेड इवेंट उनकी जो परफॉर्मेंस या एफिशिएंसी रिड्यूस होती है, उसका रिफ्लेक्शन उनकी शेयर प्राइस पे आता है. तो उनकी जो शेयर की वैल्यू है दैट कैन रिड्यूस बाय एनी ऑफ सच इवेंट. तो अगर आपने डिफरेंट कंपनीज में इन्वेस्टमेंट की होगी, तो इन दैट केस योर रिस्क विल बी डाइवर्सिफाइड एंड यू कैन रिड्यूस द रिस्क बाय इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू अ पोर्टफोलियो. So you can see here the systematic risk which is constant and you can't change it, whereas the unsystematic risk, it can be controlled. When the number of securities in the portfolio, you increase them, you can reduce the unsystematic risk. And the systematic risk, it is factors such as changes in the nation's economy and tax reforms by the government, or a change in the world economic situation, or the exchange rate movements. So these things, they are out of control of any firm or any investor. So these are the systematic risks. Whereas the unsystematic risk, they are the factors unique to a particular company or industry. For example, the death of a key executive or strike by the employees of the company. So these things can be managed and they can be controlled. So these are called unsystematic risk. So this type of risk the investor can reduce by investing into more and more number of securities by increasing the portfolio. So you can see here the unsystematic risk can be decreased with the increase in the number portfolio. And now we come to the second part of our chapter number 5, that is risk and return. And the learning outcomes, they are the same as we discussed in our previous lecture, that is to understand the relationship or trade-off between risk and return, define risk and return, and show how to measure them by calculating expected return, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation, and discuss the different types of investor attitude toward risk, and also explain risk and return in a portfolio context, and distinguish between individual security and portfolio risk, and distinguish between avoidable and unavoidable risk, and explain how proper diversification can eliminate one of these risks, which is unsystematic risk. And then after today's lecture, you should be able to define and explain the capital asset pricing model, what we call as CAPM, the beta, and the characteristic line. And also you will be able to calculate a required rate of return using the CAPM model, that is capital asset pricing model. And you will be able to demonstrate how the security market line can be used to describe this relationship between expected rate of return and systematic risk. And also you will be able to explain what is meant by an efficient financial market and describe the 3 levels or forms to market efficiency. So first of all, we are going to discuss the capital asset pricing model. The CAPM is a model that describes the relationship between the risk and expected required return. So in this model, a security's expected or required return is the risk-free return plus a premium based on the systematic risk of that security. So the assumptions here that capital markets, they are efficient. When we say efficient capital markets, these are the markets which show the reflection of the events efficiently. For example, if the economy is growing, you can see the reflection in the stocks, prices of the stocks, or if there is a change in the interest rates, inflation rates, exchange rate movement, the reflection can be monitored exactly or efficiently. The reflection can be monitored quickly. And the second assumption is homogeneous investor expectations over a given period. That is, all the investors investing into the stocks of a stock market, they would be expecting same types of returns. And third assumption is risk-free asset return is certain. That is what we call as the return where the third assumption is risk-free asset return is certain. For example, there are certain government securities. They are like term securities or the term bonds for the 3 months or for a short time period where the return is for sure. So that is called the risk-free return. And market portfolio contains only systematic risk, and you can use S&P 500 index in case of America, or any other index, or in case of Pakistan you can use KSE 100 index. So these are the assumptions for the CAPM model. So after the CAPM assumptions, we come towards the characteristics line. So characteristic line, in fact, this is the relationship between the excess return of the stock with the excess return of the market, or the excess return of the market portfolio. When we say excess return, it means कि उसमें जो फर्म ने returns earn किए हैं, those returns minus the risk-free rate of return. So that is risk-free rate of return, जिसको मैंने पहले explain किया था. They are the returns which are sure and where the risk is zero, and they are the government term certificates or the term bonds, and they are the short-term bonds, or they may be medium-term bonds, and the return on that is for sure and there is no risk on it. So we deduct that risk-free return from the returns of the stock, what we are talking about, and the return of the market portfolio, and that is called the excess return. So we take those excess returns of the stock and excess returns of the market portfolio for different number of periods. It may be per day, it may be a week, it may be a month, or it may be a quarterly returns. So we take these excess returns of the stock and excess returns of the market portfolio, and then we draw a graph between them. So if you see here, these dots in fact are the relationship between the excess rate of return and the excess rate of return of the market portfolio. For example, at this point, suppose this is point 10 here, and suppose the return here it is 5 and here it is 10. So in this case, for this level, for this point, that is excess return on the market portfolio, that is 10%. You can see here the point, let's suppose this point, the excess return of the stock is 5%. So using this combination, that is for each period, we have the excess return of the stock and we have the excess return of the market portfolio, and we plot them on a graph and we get these different points. अब इन सारे पॉइंट्स के अंदर वी ड्रॉ अ ट्रेंड लाइन. आप इसको मैनुअली भी कर सकते हैं, एंड यू कैन यूज योर कंप्यूटर, यू कैन सिंपल यूज द एक्सेल शीट, यू कैन यूज माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एक्सेल एज वेल, एंड देयर इज एन ऑप्शन टू ड्रॉ अ ट्रेंड लाइन बिटवीन द स्कैटर्ड ग्राफ. सो ये जो पॉइंट्स हैं इनको हम स्कैटर्ड ग्राफ कहते हैं, एंड द लाइन रिप्रेजेंटिंग देम that goes through in the middle of from the middle of these points, we call it a trend line. and this is the line which is called as characteristics line. And अब इसमें बीटा क्या है, अब हम इसमें बीटा कैसे कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं? We can calculate beta by taking any point in this line, that is, suppose at this point we have this and by using that characteristics line we can calculate the beta as well. In fact, beta is the figure or the digit that will determine the slope of this characteristics line. If you have the beta with you already, it means we can calculate beta from this characteristics line. You can see here the beta is equal to rise divided by run. So rise is here and run is this length. So you determine this length, these lengths. You can even use your scale, or even you can use the points mentioned along the lines here, and you can calculate the value of this rise and you divide it with the value of this run. Suppose this is 4 and this is 8. So the beta would become 4 divided by 8 is equal to 0.5. So in this case, the value of the beta would be 0.5. And if you calculate it exactly, you can find out the value more closer to the exact figure. And there is another way to calculate the beta, and that is a more precise way to calculate beta, and we will be discussing that in our next slides. I will explain how do we calculate beta using Excel sheet. So for different time periods, that is from 1 to 10, we have the market return, that is excess market return, and for the particular stock we are talking about, or we are going to invest into that stock, we have the excess return for that stock as well for 10 number of periods. So you can see here the market excess return and the stock excess return, they are given. And now let's see how do we calculate the beta using this information. The beta, you can see the formula given at the end, that is the covariance between X. We have taken X as the market portfolio and we divide it. So you can see the formula given at the end of this slide, that is beta is equal to covariance of X and Y divided by variance of X. So X in fact is denoted as the excess return of the market portfolio, and Y denotes the excess return of the stock we are talking about. So you can see here the market portfolio is equal to X, and these figures they are given as you can see in the previous slide for the 10 number of periods. And then the stock we are talking about, we have the value of this excess return for the stock for the 10 number of periods, and then we calculate the X bar, that is mean for market, and then we calculate X bar, that is mean for the market excess market return, and then we calculate Y bar, that is mean for the stock we are talking about, that is 7% here. So then to calculate the beta we need covariance between X and Y, and to calculate the covariance between X and Y we need this calculation here, that is covariance of X and Y is equal to sum of X minus X bar into Y minus Y bar. So we calculate this calculation in this table. And variance of X, we can calculate it. You can see here, that is summation of X minus X bar square. So we calculate covariance between X and Y, and we divide it with the variance of X, that is for the excess return of the stock of the market portfolio. So we calculate X minus X bar for the 10 number of periods, and then we calculate X minus X bar square to calculate the variance of x, and then we determine y minus y bar. We are not going to use it, I just calculated it. And then I calculated y minus y bar, and we took square of it, and then we multiplied x minus x bar into y minus y bar. So this figure and this figure, so we multiplied them here for the 10 number of periods, and we took summation, that is sum of this value, and that is the covariance of x and y, and we divided it with the summation of x minus x square, that is 17.75%, and we calculated beta, that is equal to 59.5017% or 0.595017. So using this method we can calculate beta. आपको एक्सेस रिटर्न ऑफ द स्टॉक अगर गिवन हो और ऐसे ही एक्सेस रिटर्न ऑफ द मार्केट पोर्टफोलियो अगर गिवन है, तो यू कैन कैलकुलेट बीटा यूजिंग this formula, that is covariance between the x, that is the excess return of the market portfolio, and y, that is the excess return of the stock we are talking about, divided by the variance of the market return of the market portfolio. अब इसको हमने कैसे डिटरमिन करना है कंप्यूटर पे, and now how to determine the characteristic line, and we can prepare it using Microsoft Excel. And now I will explain you how to prepare it on your computer using the Microsoft Excel sheet. I used Microsoft Excel 2010, and I hope कि इससे जो previous version है उनमें भी यही method है. So for that method we have these excess return of the market portfolio for the 10 number of periods, and we have the excess return of the stock we are going to talk here for that given number of periods. So first of all you have to select that is select the excess market return x and my stock y. You can click on this cell and then you can drag it all the way to this cell and this will be selected. या आप इसको इस सेल को select करके you press the shift button, and then using your arrow you can select these two cells, these two columns here, and then press insert and click on scattered graph button. In the type of graphs you will get a graph with scattered points on it. After selection of these two columns आप insert button press करेंगे, उसमें कॉलम्स उसमें ग्राफ पे क्लिक करेंगे, या अगर ग्राफ की ऑप्शंस आपके पास अपीयर हो जाएं तो आप उसमें जो स्कैटर्ड ग्राफ है आप उसके ऊपर क्लिक करेंगे, एंड देन you will get a graph on your Excel sheet, and after that you will click on any one of those points. जो scattered graph के जो points होंगे उनके ऊपर आप क्लिक करेंगे, and then you will right click on that point. जब आप उसको पहली दफ़ा क्लिक करेंगे तो all the points will be selected. And then you will right click on those selected points. So a window will open there. अब उस window में there are certain points where you will check them, for example, and then on that small window that will open you have to check certain points. For example, first of all you will check the button linear. There will be circles like that for different options. You will check the point where it is linear, and then you will, in the bottom there is again an option. So again you will check the point here as well which says display equation on chart. So these two buttons you will check them, and then you will click OK, and you will get a chart like this. जब आप insert scattered graph को click करेंगे you will get these points, and these are the points which are these are the 10 points, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. These are the 10 observations for the market excess return and for the my stocks excess return. And when you plot them on this chart, so and after that you click or you check the option to display the linear equation, that is to display the equation of this chart. So you will get the equation that is equal y is equal to 0.595x plus 0.0144. So you can see here This is again the same beta we calculated in our previous slides calculations, and this value, that is 0.0144, this is now called as intercept. और ये intercept क्या है कि at this point of this chart the value is 0 for x and y. लेकिन ये जो line है, that the trend line or characteristics line, it goes above that 0 point. So here the distance between this origin, that is 0 here, and this point, it is equal to 0.0144. So this is called the intercept. So this intercept will determine कि लाइन ने इस कहाँ से गुजरना है. अगर intercept negative है तो then the characteristic line will pass through this area. और अगर characteristic line positive है then it will be above this point. So this is the characteristic line, and then using this characteristic line you can have an estimate of the beta as well. For example, if you have the characteristics line and you don't have any idea about the beta, then you can take the distances from, for example, between any 2 points. Let's suppose these 2 points. So here the value is, let's say, 15%, and then the length from here to this point, that is, suppose from this point to this point, that is, suppose 9 point something, and then you can calculate the beta by dividing 9 with 15. So then you will have an estimated beta that will be almost close to the exact calculation of the beta. So we were talking about the beta and how to calculate it, but what it actually is, it is an index of systematic risk. इसका जो systematic risk है किसी भी stock का, that it shows the index of that systematic risk, and also it measures the sensitivity of stocks returns to the changes in returns to the market portfolio. And beta for a portfolio investment is when you have different betas for different stocks and you have weightage of those stocks in the total investment, तो आप हर स्टॉक की वेटेज को अगर बीटा के उसके रेलेवेंट बीटा के साथ मल्टीप्लाई करके उनको एड अप कर लें, दैट विल बी द बीटा ऑफ दैट पोर्टफोलियो. And the characteristic lines and different betas. For different values of beta, how we define that with the characteristic line. So if you can see here, for beta is equal to 1, which is normally the case in case of market portfolio. You can see the line, characteristic line, and then the slope is determined with the value of the beta. So if the beta is more than 1, the slope you can see here. So in this case, slope goes up, and if the beta is less than 1, it means the slope goes below the, in case of beta equal to 1. So here the attitude of the investor is reflected with the value of the beta. The investors who are going to invest into stocks with higher beta, it means they are risk takers. They want high returns. And with the beta less than 1, it means the investor is risk averse. अब वो investor उन securities में invest करता है जिनके अंदर risk कम है. It means the risk is lower than the market's portfolio risk. So you can see here the beta with less than 1, it is a defensive position by the investor, and in case of beta greater than 1, this is an aggressive position by the investor. After the characteristics line, we come toward the security market line, and we can use the Kappa model here, that is the RJ with bar, which is the required rate of return for stock J, what we are interested in, and then for that stock we have a risk-free rate in the market, and then we take the difference of the expected rate of return in the market and the risk-free rate in the market, and then we multiply it with the beta for that particular stock what we are going to invest in. And you can see here, this is the risk-free rate of return, and the line would be above that point. And for beta equal to 1, the rate of return, expected rate of return in the market is here. So we can draw a line which touches both of these points. So this is called as security market line. So all the stocks in the market being traded will have this return. If the beta is more than 1, it means, let's suppose the beta is at this point, that is 1.5. The expected market return reaches to this level, which is more than the point here. So it says कि अगर आप ज़्यादा रिस्क assume करते हैं तो you expect higher returns. And if the investor doesn't want to take any risk, it would mean the beta is equal to 0. So when the beta is equal to 0, so this value, this would become equal to 0, and the required rate of return will become exactly equal to the risk-free rate of return, which is the rate of return offered by the government securities, particularly the short-term securities. And if the person want to take some risk, as the person want to take risk, if the beta goes positive, then the risk premium also increases. So you can see this area, the risk premium increases. So as the risk or the systematic risk increases, the required return or the risk premium expected is higher by the investor. And now we explain some characteristics of security market line, that how do we obtain beta. That is, we can use the historical data if past best represents the expectations of the future. Agar past या historical data can help us to forecast the future trends of that stock returns, then we will be using the historical data to calculate the beta. And then can also utilize services like Value Line, Evertson Associates, etc. And there are certain agencies who provide the services such that you can get betas or any other financial information from those agencies like Value Line, Evertson Associates. आप इनसे बीटा information for any particular stock or any market portfolio you can get from them. And the adjusted beta, betas have a tendency to revert to the mean of 1, and you can utilize combination of recent betas and mean. अब इसमें बीटा का characteristic ये है कि जो security market line है, the stocks which have higher returns than the security market line are the lower return than the security market line. They have the tendency to move towards beta equal to 1. Sometimes stock के लिए beta have more than 1, maybe 2. So in that case, the expected return is higher, but it has inclination towards beta equal to 1. Over the time, it will come down towards 1. Now let's look into this example, that how do we determine the required rate of return using this model. The management at XY Corporation is attempting to determine the rate of return required by their stock investors. XY Corporation is using a 6% risk-free rate of return and a long-term market expected rate of return of 10%. A stock analyst following the firm has calculated that the firm beta is 1.2%. What is the required rate of return on the stock of XY corporations? And to solve for this problem, we can use the Kappa model, where the required rate of return of XY stock we can calculate using this equation here. That is, risk-free rate of return is given as 6%, market expected rate is given as 10%, and minus risk-free rate multiplied with the beta, which is given as 1.2. And the expected rate of return or required rate of return for the XY stock, it is equal to 10.8% here. And the required rate of return exceeds the market rate of return as XY's beta exceeds the market beta. अब इसमें required rate of return of stock is more than the required rate of return of the market, because beta value is more than 1. And the point lies above the security market line. And how do we determine the intrinsic value of the XY's stock? That is, XY is also attempting to determine the intrinsic value of the stock and is using the constant growth model. It is estimated that the dividend next period will be $0.5 and that XY will grow at a constant rate of 5.8%. The stock is currently selling for $15. What is the intrinsic value of the stock? Is stock over or underpriced? And we have the dividend and we have the growth of the dividend, and we calculated the required rate of return in our last slide, and we will determine the intrinsic value. So the intrinsic value is equal to the dividend paid divided by the required rate of return. We just calculated 10.8% minus the growth, that is 5.8% in the dividend. So we calculate the intrinsic value equal to $10, whereas the market value at the moment is $15. So the stock is overvalued as the market price $15 exceeds the intrinsic value of $10. And when we use the security market line, there are certain stocks which are overvalued and there are certain stocks which are undervalued. So for a stock which is underpriced, for example, in our previous slide we calculated the intrinsic value equal to 10, but the stock was being traded at $15, so it was overpriced. And whereas if the stock's intrinsic value is more and it is being traded at its lesser value, then it is underpriced. So it is advised for the investors कि वो stocks जो characteristic line के वो stocks जो security market line के ऊपर lie कर रहे हैं, that is they are underpriced, the investors should invest into those stocks, because all these stocks they have the tendency to come towards the security market line, that is where the beta is equal to 1. So it is advisable to the investors कि वो उन स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करें जो अंडर प्राइस्ड हैं, और जो ओवर प्राइस्ड स्टॉक्स हैं अगर उनमें इन्वेस्ट किया जाएगा तो दे विल लूज देयर वैल्यू ओवर टाइम. एंड if the investors they invest in the stocks which are underpriced, for example in the case of stock X which is represented as this point, so इस point के लिए जो required rate of return है at the market price security market line, it is suppose equal to 10%, and then for this point suppose it is equal to 20%. So it means if you determine the net present value or the present value using 10% as a discount rate, you will get a value, and then if you increase the required rate of return, it means you are reducing the present value. So for a higher rate of return, the present value has been reduced and the present value should come to its natural level, that is on the security market line. अब जो स्टॉक है उसकी वैल्यू जो है that is underpriced. So if the investors they purchase any stock which is underpriced, so after some time period that stock will reach to the security market line and its price will increase. And there are certain anomalies which have presented serious challenges to the CAPM model. For example, the smaller size of the firm, that is small firm effect and price earning effect, and also January effect. January effect means that after the closure of the week or the year, जब next business day start होता है, in that case the business activity is more, and at the end of the week or at the end of the year the business activity is not as much as at the start of the week. So these effects, they are the challenges to the CAPM model. And after that there are three forms of market efficiency. Eugene Fama, a pioneer in efficient markets research, has described three levels of market efficiency, that is weak form efficiency. It says the current prices fully reflect the historical sequence of the prices. The investors can't improve forecast for future prices based on the historical information. So this form means the weak form efficiency. And the markets which are semi-strong, the current prices fully reflect all publicly available information, including such things as annual reports and news items. फॉर एग्जाम्पल किसी भी फर्म की एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स की बेस पे उसके बारे में जो उसका जो रिफ्लेक्शन आता है इन्वेस्टर्स के माइंड में कि फर्म एफिशिएंटली परफॉर्म कर रही है या एफिशिएंटली परफॉर्म नहीं कर रही, तो इसका इम्पैक्ट मार्केट में फ़ौरन आता है. एंड देन द न्यूज़ अबाउट एनी फर्म, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर कोई फर्म डिविडेंड अनाउंस करने जा रही है एंड दिस न्यूज़ कम्स इनटू द पब्लिक, then the public would go for that particular stock and the value of that stock would increase. So the market reflection is prompt in this case. And the strong form efficiency, ये वो markets हैं where the current prices fully reflect all information, both public and private, that is the information known only to the insiders. अब semi strong में the information is known only towards the public. And in case of strong form efficiency, the prices in the market of the stocks, they reflect the information towards the public and the private. So the private में जो insider information है, that is not available to the public, so it is reflected in the market. The insiders, they take their information directly from the firm. Maybe they have some relationship with the directors or the management of that firm, और वो firm information to distribute the dividends or उनकी जो strength है, they are not going to announce in the public, but they give that information towards the insiders, or they may be the brokers, and the brokers accordingly react, and the prices of that stock gradually start increasing. So these are the different forms of the market efficiency. So now we come towards the problem solving of this chapter, and now we are going to solve the problems given at the end of the chapter. So please go to the page 120, and problem number 1, it says Jerome is considering investing in a security that has the following distribution of possible 1-year returns, that is probability of occurrence and possible returns, they are given here, and what is the expected return and standard deviation associated with the investment. And the second B is required here, it is there much downside risk, how can you tell? So first of all, we put the possible returns, that is minus 0.10 and 0.00 and 0.10 and 0.20 and 0.30, and the probability of occurrence is 10%, then 20%, and then 30%, and then again 30% and 10%. And now we calculate the expected return, that is R bar, which is equal to the multiplication of the possible returns, we denote them Ri, and the probability of occurrence of all these returns, that is Pi. So we multiply them and we get minus 0.01, then 0.02, 0.03, 0.06 and 0.03, and if we add them up, our expected return would become equal to 0.11 or 11%. And then to calculate the standard deviation, first we calculate these values, that is Ri minus R bar, that is expected return, and then we take a square of it and multiply it with the probability of occurrence, and we have it like this. Ri is minus 0.10 minus 0.11 whole square into probability of occurrence is equal to 0.1, that is 0.10, and then we have 0.00 minus 0.11 whole square into the probability, that is 0.20. Then at the third point we have 0.10 minus 0.11 whole square into its probability of occurrence is 0.3, and then 0.20 minus 0.11 whole square into the probability equal to 0.30, and then finally we have 0.30 minus 0.11 whole square into its probability, which is 0.10, and we calculate them and add them up, and I have calculated it for you. It's equal to 0.0129, and this is variance. We denote it as sigma square, and if we need standard deviation, that is the sigma, we have to take an under root of this value, that is 0.0129, and this is equal to 0.1136, or we can write it as 11.36%. So this is the standard deviation for this distribution of possible returns. And then what we have to determine here, is there much downside risk? How can you tell? So what is the probability of downside risk? So if you look at the distribution here, there is 10% probability that the returns are in negative, that is minus return, there is a loss. And then there is a 20% probability that returns are equal to 0. So collectively you can say there is 30% chances that returns, they are 0 or less than 0. So this is a high probability for any return to be negative or equal to 0. So there is a high downside risk in this case. And now we come towards the point, problem number 2. It says, Summer Storm is analyzing an investment. The expected 1-year return on the investment is 20%. Here the expected return is given as 20%, what we call as R bar on it. The probability distribution of possible return is approximately normal with the standard deviation of 15%, and the standard deviation is calculated to be 15% in this case. What are the chances that the investment will result in a negative return? It means the returns, they are equal to 0 or less than that. So we discussed them as a z-score. We have the formula for that is equal to R minus R bar divided by the standard deviation. So here, what is the probability of the return to be equal to 0 or less than that? So we take R equal to 0 minus R bar, that is the expected return calculated here is as 20%, divided by the standard deviation, which is given as 15%. So we get it's equal to 1.33. So, and this is a negative. Negative would mean it is towards the left side of the distribution, towards the negative side, left of the mean. For example, if the distribution is of this shape and this is the mean, so this possibility of the returns would be equal to 0 or less than that. This is towards the left of the mean. This is R bar. And now we have to use table 5 to find out the probability of the returns less than 0 or negative. So we go towards the chart 5, table 5 given at the end of this book, and we look for 1.33, that is number of standard deviations from the mean, and we have the point we are looking for lies between 1.30 and 1.35. So the value, the areas to the left or right, it is given as 0.0968 or 9% if it is 1.33, and if it is so if it is 1.3, the value given as 0.0968 or 9.68%, and if it is 1.35, it is given as 0.0885 or 8.85%. So our point lies between these two values, and most probably for 1.33 the value would be somewhere equal to 9 or 9.1 or 2, something like that. So there is 9 point, if we look in the table 5, so we have the value here for 1.33, the value should be equal to 9 point some percent. And if you want to calculate the exact figure, you can use the interpolation. For example, for 1.3 it is given as 0.0968, and for 1.33 we have to find it out, and for 1.35 it is given as 0.0885. So you can solve it using interpolation. Take the differences between these two values and then take the difference between these two values and use the interpolation and calculate for the value of x, and then you can add them towards this value, or you can add and you can use interpolation with these figures. Take the difference between these two values and then take the difference between these two values and equate them and solve for x, and after you can get the value of x, then subtract it from the value of this percent value, and then you will be able to get the exact amount of and then you will be able to calculate more precise value for 1.33, and possibly it is 9 point something like 1, 2 or 3. So in this case there is 9 point some percent possibility that the returns, they will be 0 or less than 0. And then in part B it is required, what is the probability that the return will be greater than 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% and 50%. So again we will use the same formula, that is we calculate the z-score and equate it in the appendix given at the end of the table, and we get the value. For example, in this case for 1.33 z-score we get 9 point something, that is 9% possibility the returns are negative. And then for each calculation, for example, if the required rate of returns, they are possibility to be more than 10%, we will have the calculation 10% minus 20% divided by the standard deviation, which is 15%, and we will get a value, that is a z-score. So we equate it in the table 5 and we get a value for that, and that is the percentage that the probability of the returns to be more than 10%, and gradually we will solve it for 20%, 30%, 40% and 50%. And now we come towards the problem number 3, and it is exactly the same problem as we solved in our today's lecture. We had that example for 10 periods, but here we have the number of periods equal to 24, and we are given the excess returns marquees and excess return of market portfolio. इसमें हमारे पास एक स्टॉक का excess return given है और market portfolio का excess return given है, and we have to, on the basis of this information, graph the relationship between the two sets of excess returns and draw a characteristics line. What is the approximate beta? What can you say about the systematic risk of the stock based on the past experience? And using this characteristic line, you can calculate the value for the beta, that is, if you take these 2 points, that is at 0.10, the point here lies almost on this line. So we take, this is 0.05 and this is 0.10. So the beta would be equal to the rise, that is 0.05, and so we can calculate the beta using rise and run. So the rise here is 0.05 and run is equal to 0.10, which is equal to 0.5. You can also calculate the beta using the covariance between the stock return and the excess market portfolio return divided by the variance of the market portfolio return, and you can get the value for the beta. And also you can calculate it from the characteristics line. That may be different if in both methods, but there will not be much difference. You can have an idea for that. And the beta equal to 0.5 means the market portfolio beta is equal to 1, but in this case the beta for our stock is equal to 0.5. When we say less volatile, it means कि इसमें risk कम है और इसके अंदर returns जो हैं they are sure. So it shows the attitude as a defensive investor. So now we come towards the problem number 4. And now we come towards the problem number 4. It says, assuming that the CAPM approach is appropriate, compute the required rate of return for each of the following stocks, given a risk-free rate of return 0.07 or 7% and an expected return for the market portfolio is 0.13 or 13%, and the stock and the relevant betas are given. What implications can you draw? So the required rate of return we will determine using the CAPM. So we will calculate the required rate of return for each of the stock for A, B, C, D and E, and we are given with the risk-free rate and the expected return in the market, that is 13% minus the risk-free rate of return, and the beta for stock A that is equal to 1.5, and we calculate the required rate of return for stock A equal to 16%, and then for B is 13%, and then for C is 10.6%, and for D it is 19%, and for E it is 14.8%. So the implications what we can draw from here is that again the level of risk you take, the risk the investor would assume would determine the rate of required return. जब बीटा की वैल्यू इक्वल टू 1 है, it means कि the required rate of return is almost equal to the market required rate of return. और जब बीटा की वैल्यू 1 से ज़्यादा है तो it means कि investor जो है that is assuming more risk, and more risk would mean high returns. So all the values which are more than 1 for the beta, you can see here 1.5, 2 and 1.3. The rate of returns, they are higher. And for the values of equal to 1 and less than 1, you can see the required rate of return in this scenario, they are lesser than these values. And now we move towards the problem number 5. It says, on the basis of an analysis of past returns and inflationary expectations, Martz Gom's short-term treasury securities is now 7%. Gomes is particularly interested in the return prospects for Kessler Electronics Corporation based on a monthly data for the past 5 years. She has fitted a characteristics line to the responsiveness of excess return of the stock to excess return of the S&P 500 and has found the slope of the line to be 1.67, that is beta. Beta is the slope of the line. If financial markets are believed to be efficient, what return she can expect from investing in Kessler Electronics Corporation? Now let's skip few of the problems and let's go towards problem number 9, where it says the following common stocks are available for investment. The common stocks and their symbols, they are given, and the beta information is also given here. If you invest 20% of your funds in each of the first 4 securities and 10% in each of the last 2, what is the beta of your portfolio? So इसको हमने पिछली स्लाइड्स में डिस्कस किया था कि if you have a portfolio of investment, और उस investment में for each stock you have a weightage, and for that weightage you multiply it with the beta for that particular stock, and for all the portfolios the weightage and the beta for that stock, and you add them up, that will give you the portfolio beta. So here the beta information is given and the proportion of investment is also given, and the proportion of investment is also given, that is the weightage is also given. You can see here the 20% for the first 4 investments and then 10% for the last 2 investments, and then the portfolio beta we can calculate them by multiplying them with each other, and we get these values, the weighted betas, and we add them up, so we get a beta for the portfolio which is equal to 1.15, and the expected portfolio return would become, and part B says, if the risk-free rate is 8% and the expected return on the market portfolio is 14%, what will be portfolio's expected return? हमारे पास बीटा है, हमारे पास risk-free rate of return is given, and then we have the expected market rate, and we use the CAPM model to determine the expected portfolio return using this equation here, where this is risk-free rate of return and this is expected market return minus risk-free rate of return multiplied with the beta, that is 1.115 for the portfolio, and we have 14.69% as the required rate of return for the portfolio. And with that we conclude our today's lecture. And in today's lecture we defined and explained the capital asset pricing model, beta and the characteristics line, and also we calculated a required rate of return using the capital asset pricing model, that is CAPM, and demonstrated how the security market line can be used to describe the relationship between expected rate of return and systematic risk. And also we explained what is meant by an efficient financial market and describe the 3 levels or forms to market efficiency. So this was about today's lecture. And now at the end of this lecture series, आपके लिए कुछ recommendations हैं कि आपने जो problems हैं given they are given at the end of every chapter, जब आप उनको solve करोगे तो आपको exactly idea होगा कि what is the topic. आपको कुछ problems face करना पड़ेंगे and try to face those problems and go back towards the text. जब भी आप कोई प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करेंगे उसमें जो भी कंफ्यूजन आएगी, then don't look at the solution first, then go back to the text and try to solve it by yourself. And by using hit and trial you can be able to identify the problem and you will be able to solve that problem. और अगर आप solution की तरफ directly चले जाएंगे then the concept will not be clear. Or I advise you to solve the problems given at the end and use your own skills and polish your skills. And also one more thing that should be clear to you, हमने chapter 15 को discuss किया था, which also describes the capital asset pricing model, beta and other statistical calculations. And in that chapter, the problems given at the end of the chapter, you do make your exercise, you do have some practice with those problems, लेकिन they are not part of your exam. Your exam will be conducted only about from the text or the theory of problem of chapter number 15. Your problems given at the end of the chapter, they are not part of your course. So the problems given at the end of chapter number 5, which are more or less relevant to the problem given at the end of chapter number 15. So this is part of your course, and wish you very best of luck, and I hope success in your career, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.